Our culture places celebrities on pedestals, women on their backs, and God within the four walls of the building. And at some point or another throughout my life, trust me, I fell for all of it. See, in the 80s, yes, the 80s, my lavender bedroom walls were covered with posters, mostly Michael Jackson, New Edition, and Prince. So I spent all of my little allowance buying Right-On magazines just to cut out even the smallest little picture of New Edition so I could tape it up to the rest of, with the rest on my wall. Then I discovered hip hop. So Curtis Blow, Houdini, Run DMC became amongst a long list of names of emerging artists who I completely fangirled over. So I was madly in love with the legend himself, James Todd Smith. If you know, you know, make some noise. Also known as Ladies Love or Lip Lickin' LL Cool J. So the first celebrity I ever met was during the age of boom boxes, like big boom boxes, stacked shoulder pads, and fat gold chains. Mine is not real. Most of ours weren't back then anyway, but I bought this for a 90s party that's coming up next week, and I thought it was perfect to wear today, right? So anyway, I was madly in love, like I said, with LL Cool J. As a matter of fact, I took lots of time listening to his iconic confession over and over again. See, when he said he needed love, I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that he was talking to me. What y'all laughing at? No, I'm kidding. And at 12 years old, I was ready to give all of my love to him forever. I know, right? Delusional. So anyway, I live next door to a radio station, WNOV, 860 WNOV. Yes. Yes, thank you for that great clap and the scream over here. I appreciate it. So what I didn't know back then was that black-owned radio stations were a really rare thing. I just knew that at any given time, a celebrity might be in my backyard, literally, or that a DJ might call me up to see if I wanted to come meet somebody. And of course, I always said yes, and to this day, I am very grateful for those experiences. So the opportunity to meet LL Cool J was clearly like a dream come true. So my bedroom window faced our backyard. I got the call. Of course, I said yes. I walked out my back door just past the grass, and standing there, all 73 and a half inches of him, was the legend himself, LL Cool J. And he said something really cool like, "Hey, how you doing?" So, I didn't scream, I didn't faint, I don't even think I sweated. But what happened is I lost my words and I lost my breath. So all I could do was stare. My mother, noticing this trance I was in, broke the trance. Shout out to Mom right here. Wave your hand, Mama. So she broke this trance by leaning over, nudging me in my back, looking over and saying, "Breathe." He said, "Hi." Thank you. So I managed to muster up this really weak hello or hi, and like that, the moment was over. So Milwaukee taught me a lot of things early in life. Before I understood statistics, before I noticed the segregation, before I noticed that most often when you mention Milwaukee, people thought of a few things: Laverne and Shirley, Fonzie, beer, and cheese. Definitely not black folks. This is my little roadmap in case you haven't figured it out. Yes, and it taught me that with all its cold and snow, that there was warmth in the families that we grew up with, in the neighborhoods that we had, in the streets that we ran up and down on until the street lights came on. Milwaukee taught me that celebrities were not gods. They were just people, humans with gifts and talents, who sometimes had patience for a 12-year-old like myself who lost her words. Milwaukee also taught me that women could dream to be anything they wanted. Judges, lawyers, doctors, designers, singers, you name it, we could do it. And even if we didn't have dreams of our own, we could cheer on the dreams of other women in our communities. And lastly, Milwaukee taught me that God wasn't in the four walls of the building that I called my church home on 24th Place and Vine. No, God was in the neighbors who took care of our apartment building, Mr. and Mrs. Cotton. They were an elderly couple who took the time to memorize my little footsteps. So every time I walked in that apartment after school, they heard my footsteps, opened their door, told me to call my mother, and I did. God was also in our neighbors, Miss McKinney, and the McKinney family. So I went there every day after school because I was a latchkey kid. And if you don't know what that means that my single mother was at work when I got home from school, right? So our village, my village, supported me, kept me safe, and looked after me. God was in the young man that worked at the Kohl's food store on Titonia and Capitol, who took my mother to heart when she looked at them and said, "She's an only child. Y'all are her brothers now. Look out for her." And they did. God was in the radio, the music blasting through my bedroom windows, because he placed the gifts and talents in those celebrities, and some of them used that gift and talent for good, to inspire little girls like me to learn their history, to expand their vocabulary, and to speak up, especially when it mattered. And lastly, God was in the zip code that I called home, 53206, often known as the highest incarcerated zip code in the nation for black men. And I grew up with some of those black men. And guess what? God was in them too. One of them now owns the first ever black-owned work boot company in the U.S., Ed Henning's Boot Company. Congratulations, my dear friend Toby. I am honored to call you friend. He was Toby back then, that was his nickname, but now it's Ed Hennings, but I still call him Toby, okay? All right, and he's okay with it, I asked. I was like, we've known each other a long time, so he was like, that's cool. So anyway, we often as a culture place the wrong things on pedestals, but what my village and Milwaukee taught me, thankfully, was how to stand in truth. So if I may make a quick shameless plug before I do my last poem. If you guys are available tomorrow, I have been working for 8 months on an art project that's centered around a word wall, like where you literally could create at Bronzeville Fest poems from this wall. Miss Yvonne was there and a lot of other people. 33 people actually created a poem on that day. And we took one poem and gave it to a visual artist and photographers, and they interpreted that poem through their medium. So the unveiling of that art exhibit happens tomorrow at Martin Luther King Library on Locust or off Locust, whichever way you want to say it. It will be up the rest of the month, but there'll be a special unveiling and some things going on tomorrow from 4 to 6 p.m. Free, open to the public, so if you're available, I would love to see you there. Yes, let's give it up for that. 8 months, that's a long time. I said it's like a baby. It's like I'm birthing a baby tomorrow, so. All right, so I'm going to do this last poem, and it is the first poem that I wrote once I was told I was going to be the Poet Laureate from Milwaukee. Yes, y'all can give it up for that. 22 applicants, and I was selected, and I'm so honored, and some of those people were like dear, dear close friends of mine, and they have been so supportive as well as everybody else in the city, so I'm very, very grateful. But I wrote it specifically because one of the core things I believe in is that you have to stay true to who you are, right? And so sometimes it's easy to get caught up in what other people want you to be or what you think fits into this like box that the world has created, right? And so I wanted to remind myself to always stay true to who I am. So again, this is the first poem I wrote as Milwaukee Poet Laureate. So I need a little crowd participation to get me warmed up, okay? It's real easy, I promise. I'm gonna say, my poetry is loud, and y'all are gonna say, my poetry is loud, right? We'll probably do it about 3 times whenever I feel like it's good. When I do this, what does that mean? Cut, right? Okay, there was a song, but I don't wanna sing that. I don't know if that's a good song or a bad song. I don't know. Right. That's the one. But I'm like, I don't know the rest of the lyrics, so I don't really want to say, I don't know. It might not be a good song. So anyway, all right, so here we go. My poetry is loud. My poetry is loud. I like, there was a loud voice over here somewhere I hear. Very good. All right. My poetry is loud. My poetry is loud. It doesn't follow library rules of lowering your voice or stand and remain silent during the pledge. It shakes the earth like a stampede of lions, rumbles braggadocious like that pretty boy Ali. It pierces ears and moves stone cold hearts, resurrects change and starts revolutions. My poetry doesn't sit still in its seat like a Catholic schoolboy fearful of repercussions. It doesn't snap like finger cymbals. It claps like Negro spirituals, bass heavy moving through booming systems. It has authority in its voice. You hear its footsteps before it enters. It walks with New York swag and Tim's, rocks. That's why I got the book. It walks with New York swag and Tim's, talks in Milwaukee street slang, rocks gold chains and white dookies. My poetry doesn't worry about acceptance. It moves against the grain. It never bites its tongue, doesn't run from a fist fight or rely on street lights. It walks down dimly lit blocks, hot as July, cool as Billy D, stares at the midnight sky, speaks directly to God, asks questions, why, demands answers now. My poetry is unadulterated truth. It is sometimes hard to swallow. It is straight with no chaser, written in the blood of our ancestors. My poetry is loud because it needs to be heard over watered down cliches, over sirens, over gavels, over the final closing of caskets, over the wailing of our mothers, over the anger of our brothers. My poetry is loud. It moves the crowd like Rakim. It is two dope boys in a Cadillac black. My poetry is proud like Mary, respect like Aretha, and no matter the critique, I repeat, no matter the critique, I will never turn her volume down. Thank you, guys.